Hello. Um, okay, hi everyone. Um, if you guys didn't know, my name is Nicole, and I just finished my first year of college. And over the summer, I went to missions with KCCC to East Asia, particularly B City, and I just wanted to share a little bit about what happened over the summer. So I went from June to July for about a little more than 3 weeks. And so this is just like the little intro that we did. When I went, we went to different colleges, so universities there. We went to 2 different universities. Our team consisted of about 11 people. You can switch like one more. Okay. This is my team. You can see some faces are blurred because those were the students there. Just for security reasons, we wanted to kind of blur their faces, even though, yeah. So anyone's face that wasn't really blurred is part of our mission team. And this is us in front of the school library. And so what we did when we went to these colleges, what we would do is that we would bike there from our hotel, and then we would try to sneak into the gates because you can't go in unless you had a student ID. So every day, constantly, that was like a really big, really had to put our trust in God because we really just had to sneak through, and hopefully the guards didn't see us. There were a few times where people got stopped, and but we eventually would be able to all get through. But it was every day, just constant prayer of just even getting through the gates was already pretty difficult. But we kept going. And what we do is that for lunch and dinner, you also need a student ID to have food. So we would go to the cafeterias and we would ask them, I'm just a traveler, or I'm just here on touring, and would you mind buying me dinner or lunch? And I'll pay you back, because I don't have a student ID. And then through that, we were able to sit down, have lunch or dinner with them, and then, have conversation, build relationships, and just hopefully be able to share the gospel and to have them know more about Jesus. And that's what we did every day for lunch and dinner. And through the period in between, we'd either just rest, have our time with God, or schedule different appointments with different students that we met to meet up again for a second or a third time to just really continue to build a relationship with them and to find more opportunities to just share the gospel, have them learn more. And we spoke English because all the students there, these were the pretty big universities there, and they all knew English pretty well. So we just spoke to them in English. And there was one particular girl that really stood out to me, and or I guess I wasn't originally going to talk to her. So we were going through our usual lunch hour, and I was going by myself. We usually have EV partners, but I was going by myself this time because my EV partner was busy doing something else. And I went with some of the brothers, but we were separate. And I talked to a few people already. One girl bought me food, and then she just left real quick, so I didn't get to talk to her. And someone else was oh no, I don't speak English. And then another girl was I talked to her, but she didn't seem that interested. And so I was okay, this is near the end of lunch hour. I'm kind of tired now. I'm just gonna wait for my brothers to finish, and then I'll meet them out there later. But as I was kind of sitting there, I was praying through all the people I met that day, all the people I met the days before. I was okay, God, if you really want me to talk to someone right now, can you please provide me someone? Because it's already kind of difficult to find girls sitting by themselves. Because there's just a lot of brothers there, but not a lot of girls. And I was just kind of sitting, and then I saw a girl come in, and she sat right in the middle by herself. And at the same exact time, my brother started getting up and leaving, and I was I kind of want to go with them because we also wanted to check out this bookstore afterwards, but I was oh no, okay, I think God's really wanting me to talk to her. And so I sat down, I talked to her, and she was really friendly. I really liked her. She was really interested in also psychology, which is my major, but that wasn't her major. She was a second-year master's student. And as I was talking to her more, I told her a little bit more about about how, I asked her, what do you think your purpose in life is? And she's like, oh, I don't really know. I never thought about that. Let me like think about it for a bit. And she kind of just like, went quiet for a bit. And then she kind of said some stuff like, oh, to be happy and things like that. And then I told her my purpose in life was to, serve God and to obey him and to follow him. And then I went more into sharing more about like how God has been working in my life and things like that. And then she was like really interested. And I was like, oh, do you want to like learn more? And she's like, yeah. And so I shared with her the 4 spiritual laws, which is like the KCCC, like little booklet thing of like sharing the gospel. And we went through like the whole thing. And then at the end of the 4 spiritual laws, there's like, it was like a prayer to accept Jesus Christ. And you read the prayer and then you ask at the end, does this prayer accept the desire of your heart? And she goes, yeah. And I was like taken aback because I was like, what? Like so much rejection. And now I was just like, yeah, this prayer expresses the desire of my heart. And I'm like, really? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, why? And she's like, oh, because I think that it's really good to have something in your heart that you want to follow, you want to obey, and to have commandments in your life, and to have a God that you worship. And I was like, I was so taken aback. I was like, really? Like, whoa, like, wow. That's crazy. And I was like this expresses this is what you want. Because I was like, I don't know if she understands me because I'm speaking English and it's not her first language. I was like, this is what you want? And she's like, yeah. And she kept saying like, yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, it kind of looked weird when I blurred the face, but yeah, that's my way of trying to cover identity. Yeah. That's not her though. Yeah, I kept forgetting to take pictures, so yeah, that was someone else, but that was also another person that I was really blessed by because she was very interested too. But that's beside the point. But after I was talking to her, I was like so amazed because like, first of all, like even in America, when I went around and I tried to share the gospel, like sometimes we do like campus EV. Like never before have I ever actually like had someone say like, I want to accept Jesus Christ like that. And so I was like incredibly blessed by that. And this is still early on, maybe about like 4 days after we started doing ministry, but this was like our very first person to receive Christ. And I was just like super excited. And I like never really thought about the idea of someone like going to that point and saying like, yeah, I want to accept Jesus Christ. I don't know why. I always thought it was like possible, but I never really imagined what it would be like when it happened. And when it happened, I was just so amazed, and I was like so joyful because I was just like in like words can't explain how like happy I was that someone decided like I wanted to accept Jesus Christ. And when she gave her reason, it didn't seem like it was very like or just like sometimes they kind of say yes just to like make you happy, but I think she really thought about it, and that was something that I was just like, wow, like that's something that I will always remember, and kind of gave me the courage to like keep on going and like sharing the gospel throughout the weeks. So yeah, there's that. And then if you can go back to the first slide, or the second one with a number on it. Yeah, that one. Okay. So when I came back from China, I was kind of like, okay, that first girl, pure seed, right? Prepared to receive Christ. And I was like, we're just going to have like so much more, so many things are going to happen, right? But things kind of like, I was like, yes, going to share the gospel, but like I faced rejection again and again. And I started getting tired near the end. And we only really had like another girl receive. So during the entire trip, we had 2 people come to receive Christ. And sometimes, there are times where I was thinking like, is it really worth it for like all of us to go all the way on like, all the way to East Asia and to, just meet these students and to share with them and to like try to talk to them. Like sometimes we couldn't even get to sharing because like, we maybe meet them once or like they would have to go or things like that. Or even if we shared, they weren't interested or they would stop us halfway, things like that. And, I was always like, because we weren't doing things where it was like a lot of physical labor, like we weren't building houses or providing clean water, like doing VBS, things that would like, even if we left, they would be there, even though they were like spiritual needs or physical needs that, at least like we did this or that, but we didn't do any of that. We just talked to students. And so that was something where I kind of just struggled with a little bit, where I was like, I don't know, like, is this really worth that? But I think as I came back and I started reflecting, I also went to, a couple weeks ago, our missions Gethsemane, where all the mission teams from everywhere, all the KCC mission teams came back together, and we kind of like did a recap of all our summer missions. And this was the number that we had of people who came to receive Christ just this summer from LA KCCC mission teams, which was 102. So there was 102 people this summer that, came to pray and receive Christ through just our mission teams, this summer from LA. And there's like teams that are being sent from like New York and NorCal and all the other places. But 102 was like just the number that, was from the LA mission teams. And I think that as I saw the video that they did, which was just like, it was just like basic like background video of people working and whatever. But in a box on the side, there are a lot of stats, right? Stats of like, they recorded our stats of like people you approach, how many times you shared the gospel. It was like 600 something that we shared the gospel, and like how many people came to receive Christ, how many follow-ups you did, and 102 was the number that came to receive Christ. And as I saw that, constantly from like different teams, they did it for every single team, like New York team, New York East Asia B City team, LA East Asia B City team, or like New York Thailand team, or like Atlanta, middle or Asia Minor team, things like that. And they all just had these statistics that just like added up at the end. And so when I kind of saw that video and I saw this number, like 102 was something that like stuck to me so much, because I was like, 102 souls, it's not just a number, but 102 souls came and they accepted Jesus Christ this summer just through LA KCCC teams. And I started to really see like, that was like it was like something so much bigger when I went to missions. Like that one PRC I had was so much bigger than myself, so much bigger than just our team, and so much bigger than just LA team, It was just even just seeing that, those two, like the 102, the two numbers right there is kind of like our contribution from the East Asia team. Just to see all those numbers kind of like come together and to add up into like, this huge number of like 102 souls. Like 102 souls is enough to like build another church, like maybe two churches. 102 souls that came to receive Christ just this summer, and just from LA KCCC. I thought like, wow, that's so much bigger. And I think when I started to look way beyond just like how many people PRC'd from me, how many people PRC'd from our team, just to see so much bigger, like, around the world, there was 102 people that came to receive Christ during the span of like 3 weeks. And that was something to me that was like, wow, that was actually like crazy amazing. And even though like, maybe, there's a team that went to Vietnam. Vietnam team had like 40 PRCs, even though like East Asia team had like 2 PRCs. Just seeing it all come together was like, wow, this is so much greater than me, and so much greater than like, just the one missions that we had. And I think that, that was something that God was really teaching me. And that was something where I was like, wow, so amazed by. And, it makes me really want to like continue and go out and like to continue doing missions, even just like, campus EV here, or, just talking to like friends or family. Like it's so much greater than you. Yeah. And yeah, that's about it.
Check. Hello? Hello. All right. Good morning, guys. It's good testimony, huh? I mean, that's the heart of what. Oh, snap. And that's the heart of what we wish and hope for our people to think. Is to realize that what we do in church and what we do here is why we're here, is to make sure the gospel is advanced and the name of Jesus Christ is known. And I'm really proud. I'm really proud of all the missionaries that went out this summer from our church and all the work that they were done. Whether you went with our ministry or you went with other ministries, I'm okay with anything, as long as you go. If you can't go, as long as we are the support to send them, that's great. That's the kind of mentality and heart that I hope our church continues to have as we do this. All right. And we are in a series called Raw Humanity. Raw Humanity. And it's a series really with this hope of getting us to connect in a way that's speaking to God. Right? So many times when we talk about God, we talk about who He is and all that stuff. We kind of do the God thing here at church. We do the God thing at home. And we kind of gloss over who He is. We never actually dig deeper and within our own souls communicate and draw from our emotions and our truth and our fears and our angst and actually communicate with God. And this series is designed for us to come to a place to realize, I can talk to God the way the psalmist talks to God. I can speak to Him in such an intimate and actually real way like this too. I don't have to always come to God and so sometimes when I hear you guys pray, it's so funny. It's cute, because it always starts off with, how's the beginning? Oh yeah, you guys always say something like, "Oh, thank you God," or "Thank you Father," right, for this day, right? Always for this day. It's always the first part for this day. I mean, I get it. We thank you for the day, but it's this ingrained way of speaking that we got into our mind. It doesn't even seem real anymore. It just seems like we're just like quoting from some sort of text, You know how like in the Bible, Mark and Luke, Matthew and Luke, there's the Lord's Prayer spoken two different ways. You ever seen it's said two different ways, You know why it's done that way? Because what Jesus is trying to say is that when I pray to God, I'm speaking to Him. And so when I speak to Him, it's not a script that I'm reading. It's something that I just come organically to. Sometimes, I add some stuff to it. Sometimes I take away from the prayer. It doesn't have to be a script when I speak to God. And raw humanity is not a script that we have to speak to God. It's a reminder that we speak to God because He's a real person that we can actually communicate with. Right? We don't need a script. We don't need some sort of like higher level hierarchy of communicating to Him. We're able to come and share and speak and communicate. And so, just do a quick review. Celebrate, which is the first one we did on Raw Humanity series. It's this picture of who God is, His love. That this love that God possesses in and of Himself. A love that is exclusive, a love that is inclusive, a love that is full of justice and mercy, a love that is full of righteousness, a love that is full of care. This dynamic God who loves in such a unique and unbelievable way. What does this God choose to do with this love? He chooses to, in humility, subject Himself and bind His heart to our heart, to everyone's heart. If you are a living, breathing soul, doesn't matter whether you believe in Him or not, He binds His heart to your heart. So that when you walk in a way that is running from Him, He is distressed. His heart actually breaks. So whether you're a believer or not, and you sit and He's like, the things I'm doing, I'm not sure if God will be pleased by it. You know what? Honestly, God's heart breaks for it. When things are well for you, He rejoices for you. He binds Himself to you in such an intimate way. He chooses to do that. He doesn't have to, but He chooses to do so. And that's worth celebrating. That's worth celebrating that we have this unbelievable God that would do that with us, for us. And then last week we talked about contemplate. How if we actually sit down long enough and we look at the stars, we look at the mountains, we look at nature, we look at the ocean, and we realize something so beautiful about them, right? Don't we always see that they're really gorgeous? And what do we realize? That they're speaking to us. Why are we constantly always taken aback when we look at nature? Why is it that when we climb up a mountain and we look down where our breath is taken away? Why do when we look up at the stars, we're like, wow. Why is that? Because those things, nature itself is saying, it's singing to us, it's speaking to us, and it's saying, who we are, what we are, is not a mistake. We were crafted by the hand of a master who has passion and heart, who desires with every single aspect of his soul to remind us that we are not a mistake. And if we ourselves, nature, is not a mistake, you definitely are not. Your existence and who you are, everything about you is not. If we ourselves, if you can be taken aback by that, if you can realize that this is so much more grand, then you realize that you yourself are not a mistake. He speaks to us Through nature, he speaks to us through his perfect word, reminding us where to go. For what reason? Why does he speak to us in such a way that he calls us to obey? Sometimes when people talk about church, they get this kind of mentality. It's like, oh, I kind of like the community, I like the part of it, but I don't like when he tells me to do things, like this obedience thing, right? And Jesus says, if you obey my command, right, you will receive the joy. My joy will be in you. And the whole reason, guys, of why God in his dynamic love binds himself to us, the whole reason why he creates this whole universe to speak to us, why he's given us his word to speak to us, the whole reason for all of that is to walk us along this path to bring us to a place where we can actually experience joy. See, we run and we try to find joy in every other areas of our life. In every area of our life, eventually we either get bored of it or it disappoints us. Right? Either we get bored of it, it disappoints us, or ultimately we run away from it too. And we try to catch on to the next thing. But see, he says, I don't want you to run. Walk with me in this road of obedience, and eventually what happens is it's for your joy. All of this is for you. His creation, his word, his love, it's really for you to know joy, to be restored back to glory for the way he made you to be. Right? And so today we get into one of my favorite Psalms, and it talks about fear. Right? It's one of my favorite Psalms because I knew the Psalm before I read the Psalm. Right? I knew the Psalm before I read the Psalm because in 1995, Dangerous Minds came out. You guys remember that movie? And out of that movie came a very famous rap song by Coolio, which I love, right? Called Gangsta's Paradise. And the first line of Gangsta's Paradise is as I walk through it is my go-to karaoke song, by the way. Anytime we go karaoke together, that is my first song I always sing, right? As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I take a look at my life. Well, anyways, but I knew this psalm before I read the psalm. And it's actually kind of weird because as I was thinking about it this week, I was thinking about the time I actually, because back then we had cassettes, and you had to record it off of the radio. You had to press the play and the record button so you can get off the radio. You guys remember that? Yeah? Anybody? Yeah, okay. Right? And so I remember I recorded it, but I recorded it in secret. I recorded it in secret because my family's Asian, so they thought rap song was devil's music, and so they didn't get it, and so I recorded it in secret, and I remember I was playing it one time, and my dad walked in. My dad walked in, and then he got all mad. He said, "What are you listening to?" I said, "Oh, this is a really cool song, Dad. It's called Gangsta's Paradise." He's like, right? And he's like, "When did you start listening to rap?" I'm like, "No, you gotta listen to the words. It's really good, And it's from this movie, Dangerous Minds. Have you seen it yet?" And he says, "No." I said, "You should watch it. It's really good, right?" And he was like, he's listening to it, and he's being fobby. There's a line in there that he thought it was because he didn't want me to hear any cuss words in the songs. So he thought there was a cuss word in the song. He's like, "So you're listening to music with cuss words now, right?" I said, "No, there's no cuss word in the song." He said, "What about the line when it says, something, I guess they front, right? Front meaning like, you put up a front." I said, he said front, Dad, not the F word, right? And I said, no, he said the F word. I said, no, he said front. No, he said the F word. All right, whatever, okay? So we got in a fight. So I had to throw my cassette away. I was so sad, right? But the crazy thing was, a week later, I was in his car, right? I was sitting there. He went somewhere. I was looking through, his tape, and he bought the soundtrack to Dangerous Mind. Right? He bought the soundtrack to Dangerous Mind. I'm like, what the? I thought maybe he just gave it to me because he felt bad that I threw my tape away. I said, "Dad, what is this?" I said, "I bought it because I was listening to it." Like, to the song? I said, "Yeah." "You like it?" "It's actually pretty good." I'm like, whoa, it ain't not bad, right? And so I can't imagine my dad bump into rap music, but it was kind of this weird thing. Maybe he's going through midlife crisis. I don't know, but it was that moment I was listening to it. I was like, okay, So it has a very, very deep, profound connection to me. But even more than that, actually, here comes the sad part of the story, right? It was actually that year, and I think it was a foreshadowing. It was that year when my family walked through our first valley of shadow of death, and it's a valley of just really pain, and it's the year he died, right? When it was the year when I first found out about that psalm, was also the year he died, right? And today, as we go through the psalm, we're gonna deal with David's fears, and deal with some of our fears, okay, and some of our moments of deep darkness and deep pains, and we're gonna see what is it that God do to lead us through it, and what is it, and why is it that He leads us through this process for? Why does He walk us through this journey of pain, right? Journey where sometimes we are we're moving away, right? We got a new job somewhere, and we don't know what to do. We have new friends. We don't know who to meet, don't know who to talk to. Everything's new, and we're scared, and we're wondering, why am I in this position? Why did this happen to me? Why didn't I, get a job here or what, in this area? Why do I have to go somewhere new? And there's a lot of fears that kind of adds on to that. Or sometimes maybe there's a death in the family. Right? You don't know why that car ran over so-and-so and killed this person who you love, and now they're gone. Everyone's grieving, and you're wondering, why is this happening? Right? Or sometimes maybe you're going through financial crisis and your money in your bank is out. You're close to being bankrupt, and you're wondering to yourself, like, why am I going through all this? Or maybe sometimes your family, your mom and dad, they're in a fight and they're going through a divorce, and you're wondering why. Why is it that God would put me in such a place? Why would I even walk through such a place? Right? And the psalm here, David talks about this journey of who God is as he walks us through this place and to bring us somewhere, right? And we're gonna learn what is it that God does to bring us through this journey, right? And we're gonna learn 3 parts of it. We're gonna see the green pasture, we're gonna see the valley of the shadow of death, and we're gonna see the banquet, right? And this is the process in which God leads us and to show us. And if we understand this, if we really take it to heart and we understand this picture, then the beauty behind what will end in your mind after this is this: that even though I walk really through the valley of the shadow of death, I will have no fear. For I will have the confidence that you are with me. And you will walk out of this place, and you will walk through your thing. Yes, still in pain, still hurting for sure, but with a strength and a confidence and a hope that in the end of it all, right, it will be for my good. So open your Bible, Psalm 23. Let's read that together. We read together the whole thing together, and then we will break it down. Okay. Oh yes. Anybody need a Bible? Bible. Love your Bibles. Thing. Okay. Psalm 23. All right, check it out. The Lord is my shepherd; I shall not be in want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So we begin with this picture of the Lord as my shepherd, right? So one thing you gotta know is what David is beginning to understand about himself is that if the Lord is his shepherd, that means that he sees himself as a sheep, okay? As a sheep. Now, something very special about sheep. They are very, very dumb, okay? They're extremely dumb. That left to their own devices long enough, they will get lost. Not only lost, they will follow other sheep, and if the other sheep tends to walk down to a hill and jumps off, they will follow and jump off into the hill, right? Left long enough, if one of the sheep decides to jump into the water and drown, they too will walk into the water and drown, okay? So a sheep is very, very dumb, right? And it needs the hand of the shepherd. So what David is saying in the beginning is this: the Lord is my shepherd, which recognizes that he himself is a spiritual sheep. He really knows very little and nothing at all, okay? Absolutely nothing. If not for the hand of the shepherd, he would be lost and he would be dead, okay? But here's the thing. The shepherd leads him to where first? Green pastures and quiet waters. Green pastures and quiet water. Now, this is a very special way in which David phrases. In verses 1 through 3, he talks about God. He talks about God. He uses the word he makes, he leads, he restores, he guides, his name, right? But all of a sudden, when we get to verse 4, it begins to be you. You are with me. Your rod, your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me, right? There's a switch here. And so what David is showing us is a picture of the spiritual journey that God takes us on. See, in the beginning, we are all basically sheep, because sheep is not a word. Sheep, right? Sheep. We're all basically sheep, and we are spiritually idiots. We're spiritually dumb. We do not know or see nor able to comprehend the spiritual things that's going on around us, or the future things, or the bigger things that's happening around us. And so what happens? So he takes us, so we talk about God. We talk about God not as if we're talking to God, but we're talking about him in the second person, right? He does this for me, or he's like this. And the reality is, this is how it looks like, and we play it out in the church. You come to a community, to a church, and you enjoy it, right? You see the people and you love them, right? You see the connections they make, and this is real, this is awesome. You see the things that we do, and you're like, they're growing, their excitement. You see the things, the benefits that you're receiving from it, the worship. Evan and Pastor Tony is just amazing speakers, and you're just so enthralled by it, and so just receiving all these things, and you're energized by it. You're in the green pastures, you're in the still waters. But the way you communicate to God is not that you are actually talking to him, but you're talking about him. All right? You're still in that place where you're talking about him. You're here not actually for him, but you're here because you're receiving the green pastures. You're here because you're getting the still waters. You're here because the community is great. You're here because you enjoy hanging out with the people. You're here because small groups are fun. You're here because you feel something when you come to Sunday worship. You feel something when David Wynn sings and everyone else sings, right? There's a sense of just connection that's happening there, and you just want to continue to receive. But what is the problem with staying in the green pasture and still waters for so long? What is the problem with talking about God and actually not coming to a place where talking to God? Because eventually, when you keep looking at the green pasture, when you keep looking at the still water, like a sheep, you will get lost. Because you're not looking at the shepherd anymore. You're looking at the green pasture. And if you get lost, what happens? You're enjoying the green, and you keep walking out. Oh, there's more greens. There's more green. Also, you fall in the other sheep who's kind of wandering off, and pretty soon you're jumping off a cliff, and you're like, oh, where did that happen? Right? How did that happen? Or you're drinking some water, and you're going down the river, like, oh, it's nice, right? And it gets deeper and deeper, and it's like, coming down to a waterfall, and you jump in with the other sheep, and oh, how did that happen, right? See, when you take your eyes off of the actual shepherd and being in the green pasture and the still waters for too long, you eventually get lost. And in church, same way. In church, same way. You come and you receive these things from God, and you receive these things from the community of God. You receive these things from the church and the benefits of it, and it's great. You love it, and it's awesome. But the longer you are here, and the more you keep talking about God and actually to him, right, you begin to kind of just stray. And the straying doesn't happen right away. It just strays over and over, just a little bit here and there. Eventually, you end up being lost, right? And so what does the shepherd do? Right? He doesn't just keep you there in this place. He says, there's something more. There's something more. Right now you're talking about me. I'm going to bring you to a place where you're going to be with me. Right? And so he gathers his sheep, and the Bible says he leads them through the valley of the shadow of death. Okay? So check it out. He says this. Verse 4, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. So this is the first time he changes the terms. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. So think about this, okay? Why would a shepherd take his sheep from a place that's like with water, that's everything is great, nothing is wrong, and take them to a place where they're going to be experiencing pain? Why would he put them in a position when they're going to be feeling discomfort? Why would he call them to make a decision that would actually bring them more emotional turmoil than emotional joy? Why would he create situations for them where they are facing heartache and pain rather than excitement and joy? Why? It must be because the shepherd knows there's something else over the valley, something better. Right? So what do we know about the valley of the shadow of death? 3 things, okay? First thing, verse 3, it says this, he restores my soul. In verses 1 through 3, David saw himself as a sheep in the hands of a shepherd. In verses 5 through 6, what happens? What happened to him? You prepare a table before me. Sheep don't eat at tables, by the way, right? In the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And so what is the first thing that happens? That God walks us through this valley of the shadow of death. What is the reason? It is to restore our soul. Here you are sheep who are hungry, who wants the good things of life, who wants to enjoy the right things of life. But God is saying there's so much more for you. This can never fully satisfy because grass will wither away. Water will disappear. There's something better for you. And so, but I need to walk you across this valley to get there. And when he got there, when he went through the valley and he got there, David says, now I'm no longer a sheep. I'm a man. I'm the son of the living God. I'm a daughter of the living God. Glory restored. The glory that was mine from the very beginning of time, now given to me again. As I sit before my Father in his house, dining at his banquet table. Glory restored. And so, why is it that he walks us through times of trouble and pain, fears and doubts? Why is it that he walks us through moments of bankruptcy, death, hurts, right? Why is it that he gives us these emotional turmoil? Ultimately, to restore our soul. There's something about the pain. There's something about the hurt. There's something about fear. And there's something about going through that changes the way we think, changes the way we feel, and it brings us to a place where we're no longer talking about God, but now we are actually talking to God. Do you know what sheep do when they are in the valley and they're really and they're like this cliffs hanging out? They start clinging to the knees of their shepherd. They come really close to him as he's walking. They're just clinging close to him because why? They know that if they were to go anywhere further, they would die. Okay, they would fall off and die. Right? And so what does he do? They come to him and they no longer are they saying, "Oh, he's this dude." He says, "You are the one that's guiding me through now. You have to be the one because if you're not guiding me through, I am going to die." Right? And so the only hope they have as they go through this valley is to look at their shepherd. They're not looking at the grass anymore because there is no grass. They're not looking at the still waters because there is no still waters. All that's left in their life is the one thing that's always been consistent, which is their shepherd, their God. And this is when you begin to cry out, "For you are with me. Your rod, your staff, they comfort me." Right? Your rod, your staff, they comfort me. So he brings us to this place, walks us through here to restore our soul. The second thing, he does this. He guides me in the path of righteousness. So it is the shepherd that's guiding them through the valley of the shadow of death, yes? It's the shepherd that guides them through this place. So if the shepherd is guiding them through it, David is recognizing that the path that he's walking is a righteous path. Right? The Bible says God does all things for the good of those who love him. All things. Whether it's great, whether it's painful, whether it's joyful, whether it's fear. He does all things for the good of those who love him. And so when he walks them down this path, it is a path of righteousness. That if you will stick with me, do not abandon this place. If you will walk with me, do not run from me. It will lead you to a place of righteousness. Your soul will be restored. Your glory will be restored. Everything that I've ever wanted for you, that you've been running away from, it will be given to you. I know you cannot see it now because the pain is so much. I know that you cannot have it now because you cannot see past your emotional hurts. But the reality is everything that I have done, everything that I am, everything that I'm doing is to get you to that place where glory is restored. If you would trust me, if you would stop running, if you would just listen and obey. And what else do we know about this valley? It's the rod and the staff, right? The rod and your staff to comfort me. It's a painful place. It's a painful place. You know what the shepherd does sometimes in the valley of the shadow of death? The staff, right? The staff part is to kind of herd them, like, don't go off. That's the cliff, okay? You're going to fall, right? But there's still one or two sheep. You know, they think they're all crazy. They're going to keep walking. So you know what he does with them? He takes the rod and he breaks their leg, right? So that they're like, oh, right? Ow, right? Like, why, Lord? You know, but he breaks their legs so that they kind of come back in. It's painful. And they're like, why did you do that for? Why did you put me through that pain? Because if you take another step, son, you're going to actually fall off the cliff. Right? If you keep going down that road, you're going to fall off. And you're going to come to a place where you can't return. And this joy that you think you're having, it's gonna kill you from the inside out. And so this place of the valley of shadow of death is one, he walks us through it to ultimately restore our souls. It's a path of righteousness. And thirdly, right, it is a painful place. But he does that to bring us somewhere better. He does that, he uses that to bring us somewhere better. He never makes us, see, when people come to church and they're like, I hate it when people tell me I gotta do this. I hate it when they tell me I have to like listen to this or all these commands in the Bible and blah, blah, blah. All of those things, they are God's means of getting you to a place where you can experience real joy. Real joy. Right? You ever, when you eat food, right? You know, like when you're young, you have a very not a refined palate, and so when you eat like really good food, you're like, oh, it's nasty, right? You can't really enjoy it. But if you kind of like work yourself up from that, like you start eating smaller things, all of a sudden your palate gets better and your tongue becomes more refined. You actually can enjoy things a lot better. You can actually enjoy like some people think meat's all the same. Okay, meat is not all the same. Okay, by the way, there's good meat and there is just right? You know, like some people think all sushi is the same. No, that's not true either. There's some good sushi and some bad sushi, right? But you gotta work yourself up to actually know how to enjoy the food, right? In the same way, when you are in this life, sometimes we're in this green pasture, we're in the still waters, we think this is great. Everything is great. And God said, no, there's something better. There's something more, but you gotta work your way to get there. I want you to get there. I want you to enjoy that. I want you to taste that. I want you to know the goodness of that. But you gotta walk through this. You gotta step your way through here. And as you go through here, you gotta remember one thing, that I am for you. I am not against you. Okay? I've always been for you. I've never been against you. This whole entire journey is for you. This whole entire lesson is for you. I honestly cannot explain. If you guys are going through a lot of hurt right now, I cannot explain in detail why specifically that hurt was for you. I cannot explain in detail specifically why God wanted you to feel that pain or that loss or that struggle. But I know one thing. I only know one thing. I know that if you're walking with Him, it is for your good. And that in the end of it all, it is not for you to feel pain or hurt or be destroyed. It is for you to be restored. For you to be restored. And so the last part of it is this. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Right? So here you are, you're through the valley. Right? You're no longer a sheep. Glory restored. Glory restored. Some of us, we take us long to get through this valley. But in the end of it all, it's the banquet. In the end of it all, we come out of it and we see what God has prepared for us all along. And we see how often He has pursued us and how often we have ran from Him. Right? Let me tell you a story. Illustration. Imagine you're in your car. Okay, you just got out of a hotel. You slept over, and you got in your car and you start driving. And all of a sudden, you see a highway patrol car in the back of you, and the lights turn on. And for some reason, some irrational, crazy reason, you decided not to hit the brakes, but hit the gas, and then you go. Right now, you're hitting 100 miles per hour, and you're driving. And the highway patrol is not letting up. He's driving after you. He's chasing you down. And as the faster you go, the more guilt is being piled up. It's like, I should stop. I really should stop. I'm really breaking the law. This is really bad. I need to stop, right? But you're not, because you're thinking to yourself, well, no, if I stop, then if I get a ticket, I'm going to get my car impounded. I'm going to lose my license. I can't have that. If I get a ticket, that means I have to pay a lot of fees. And I'm trying to take my wife on a trip to Miami in a few weeks, right? There's no way I should stop. I shouldn't stop. I should just keep going. But the guilt is riding up to you knowing that you're breaking the law. And all of a sudden, of course, obviously, you cannot outrun a highway patrol car. He stops, he pulls you over, he comes to you, and he says, you're driving kind of fast there, son. He says, yeah, officer, sorry. So anyway, you left your wallet at the hotel, and so the desk lady asked me to give it to you. I was like, oh, now you're feeling dumb, right? Because the pursuit was not for because you broke the law. He was trying to help you. Then he says, well, also, they told me you won the raffle for the trip to Miami. And now you're feeling extremely dumb because now you're like, dang, why did I run for? Why did I go through all of that for, right? And so the picture here is this. It's the fact that we're in our cars and we're driving and we're thinking that God's chasing after us to punish us. He's chasing after us to kind of catch us and give us a ticket and say, you've done wrong. But the whole time he's chasing after us. He's pursuing us with goodness and love. He's pursuing us with it. He says, I want this for you. This whole thing is for you. This whole journey of history is for you. Right? He's pursuing you for goodness and love. So here's the big picture. Here you are, you begin this journey with God, and things are good. You're in this church. You talk about God. You're not talking with him yet, to him yet. You're talking about him. You're in this green pasture. You're enjoying the community. You're receiving all these things. And you're like, oh, I love this place because I get so much out of it. I get so much out of it. It's all about you. And all of a sudden he says, this is not good because you stay here long enough, you're going to get lost. So he takes you and he says he hustles you through a valley that is basically painful, that is dark, that has no greens, that has no water. And you're wondering, why am I in here? Right? He hustles you through this place for what purpose? Because he says, I want to restore you. You're meant to be more than that. And here you are, all lost and confused. And now you're no longer looking for the green pastures. Now you're looking for the one person who's always been around, which is your shepherd. And you talk to him. Now it's about you and him. You talk to him, not about him. Right? He restores your soul. He leads you in the path of righteousness. It's painful, but it's there to keep you there so that ultimately, why? When you walk out of that, glory restored. You sit at the banquet hall of God, and you remind yourself and you realize to yourself that this whole time that I've been running and hiding, this whole time that I've been thinking that he's out there to chase after me, to punish me, that he is actually seeking for my goodness and my love. You come to a place and you be restored at the end. Right? So why do we go through these moments of pain and hurt? Why do we go through these things? Because I think ultimately, what he realizes ultimately is this. It is for the restoring of who you really are. Sometimes we don't like it the easy way. And so God uses the most painful way to get us to wake up, to get us to cling closer, to get us to walk straighter, to get us to see, if you would just listen, you'll get there. We all want to get there, but we don't know. We all try to do it our own way, but God says this is the only way. And you want to do it your easy way, but you're never going to get there doing the easy way. It's this way. Just follow me. Let me lead you through it. How do I go through it, Tony? How do I get myself the strength or the power or even the courage to make myself walk through this a season of pain, a season of fear? How do I get myself to go through it with such hope, with such strength, with confidence, right? Because it hurts. It hurts when I fear. It hurts when I go through struggle. It hurts when things bombard against me. It hurts when we're fighting. It hurts when there's death in the family. This hurts when there's separation. This hurts when financial problems is rising up in the house. It hurts. How do I have the hope and the confidence to even go through it? I know that God wants to restore my soul, but how do I get the heart to even go through it? Right? The answer is Jesus. Thank you, right? Do you guys know why I do that all the time? I mean, it's not because I just like you guys saying Jesus, right? It's the picture of this. Imagine this, okay? Every time we've been doing this for the past 4 years, okay? The whole reason is this. Is I want you guys to be able to take every aspect of your life. Every aspect. Big, small, every worry, everything of your life, and use the gospel to get you through it. Use the gospel because everything, all solution, everything comes back to the gospel. It comes back to Jesus. Everything. And so when you have that kind of mentality, right, you can walk through life realizing, why do I do this? And go back. It's because of the gospel. You know, why do I give? Because it's commanded. Yeah, it's commanded, but I give, and I have the courage to give for what reason? Because if God would give his son to us and not spare his own son, then I can have the confidence to say that I can give my money to him without the fear that he's going to somehow punish me for it or hurt me through it. That I'm going to be okay. Right? It's bringing it back to the gospel. And how do we overcome this fear? It's to bring it back to the gospel. Because Jesus didn't just walk through the valley of the shadow of death. He actually went into the valley of death. He faced death itself. Jesus was in, quote unquote, the green pastures, still waters, much better green pastures, still waters than us. And yet he came down willingly, subjected himself willingly, binding himself willingly to us. And the God the Father willingly walked him into the valley of death. Was he afraid? Oh yeah. He even told the Father, take this cup from me. Please. He was afraid. He was scared. But he knew what? That the only way out of this valley, the only way to get to that place where I want everyone to be at is that you have to walk through it. You have to walk through it. And Jesus Christ said, okay, I will. So for the joy set before him, Jesus endured the cross. Jesus endured the cross for the joy set before him. And the joy was you. God walked Jesus into the valley of death so that you will be able to sit with him in the banquet hall. That you will be able to know joy and glory for what it really means. That you would be able to be restored back to the way he has made you from the very beginning of time. He walks you through the valley of, so that you have the ability to walk through the valley of shadow of death, to know that he's not doing it because he's vindictive, he's out to punish you and to make you feel miserable. He's doing it because if he would do it to his own son for a greater glory, he's doing it for you for a greater glory. And you have the hope to be reminded, if God did not spare his son for my sake, then the pain that I'm going through must be for good. It must be ultimately for good. Right? Must be. And so when my father passed away after that year, I thought to myself, that's crazy. How can it possibly be that anything good will come out of this? And so the journey came that, young kid growing up without a father, right, in need of a father figure, and then we found it. I found it. Found it through the brothers at our church, older brothers, right? And I understood something very deep when I became a Christian. I understood that God was the father to the fatherless, right? And from that journey, it took me to here, preaching in front of you, right? Which is pretty crazy, but here I am, right? So we look at that. I mean, I'm not saying that my father dying was like, yay, but that pain, that valley, that death, right? Ultimately is to restore something, right? It's to restore something and restore you to bigger and better place. You can't see it now because you're going through it. You can't see the beauty behind it going through it. And I don't even know what's going on with my dad, right? But that's a different story. But for my story alone, what God has written for me, that's what it looks like. And what God is writing for you is the same thing. That he calls you into a life of obedience. When he says, let go. Trust me, just let it go. When he says, hey, pick it up. I need you to pick it up. When he says, stop and forgive. Stop and forgive. Stop holding on to that. When he says, do not fear, right? When he says, I know death seems like everything is over, but it's not. He walks us through all of that. Ultimately, when we get through the valley, when we get out of it, glory is restored, and we will see the whole journey, at least for ourselves, at least for our story. We will see why we walked through that. Okay? So as we begin to contemplate on, maybe some of you guys are going through a sense of fear right now. Maybe there's a sense of worry or doubts or questions that's going through your mind that you don't really know what to do. And if that's the case with you, can I just remind you that you have a God that you can actually talk to. Not just talk about. Not talk to him about in the third person, but actually talk to. Cling to him as you walk through this valley. Trust in him as you walk through the valley. Obey him as you walk through the valley. And see how he restores you back. Okay? Let's pray. Let's bow our heads, let's pray as we come before the Father. There's something going on in your life that you are maybe struggling with, or maybe you are holding on to. Maybe there's a season where he's asking you to walk through this valley. Maybe you are walking through the valley. come and let's talk to him. Let's come and speak to him. Let's come and echo the words the psalmist echoes. That even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod, your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life. And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Let's come and speak to the Father. Let's come and let's pour out our hearts before him. Let's pray. Let's stop talking about him. Let's talk to him. Let's come. Let's pray. Father, we come before you and we thank you. We thank you that you are a good God. We thank you that you are a shepherd. We thank you, God, that your pursuit for our hearts and our lives is to restore us, O Lord, to you. And I pray that, God, that we will keep our eyes upon you, to know that in the end, it is not the banquet that we hunger for, nor the house that we desire, Father God, but in the end, it is you. And I pray that we will see that in all of our hearts, that, Father, you have done all these things, that we will see you, that we will know you, we will want you. I pray, Father, for my brothers and my sisters here, sons and daughters of TLC. Help us, Lord, to experience you in a great way. Help us, Father God, to walk through our valleys in such a way that honors you above all else. Praise you, Father. Thank you for all these things in Jesus' name.